What's up, guys? So I want to just take a second, step aside from the reviews and the products, and give you guys that knowledge drop that I was promising. By knowledge drop, I just mean dropping knowledge. In no way do I think I'm an expert on any of this stuff. But with that being said, it is my passion. I do lots of research to make sure that I bring you guys the right details and the right information. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to talk about intermittent fasting. I'm not going to bore you guys to death with this. I'm going to try and keep it clear, concise, and short, and talk about, first of all, what it is, how it works, and then my personal experience with it and any tips that I learned along the way. First things first is, what is intermittent fasting? Basically, it is just choosing a specific time when you eat and when you fast, and it's as simple as that. It's really not that crazy, it's nothing revolutionary, but it is very effective. The most common method is the 16 and 8 method. This is ideal for most people to fit into their daily life and make it work with your lifestyle. Shift workers, you may have a bit of a more difficult time making this work, but for the average Joe, this is the one you want to choose. So it's 16 hours fasted, 8 hours of eating. You fit in your meals in that 8-hour window. For me, it was 12 to 8. That worked great. It was right smack dab in the middle. And I was able to get my meals in and everything I needed and feel good. Next is how it works. Basically, without getting too crazy into the science of it, it has been proven, lots of studies on this, human growth hormone levels go up, insulin levels go down, and this is what helps you attack those fat stores. So it's been proven to be extremely effective at losing weight. I would say it's probably the most effective way to lose weight without changing your diet, because this is not a diet, so to speak. It's purely just a lifestyle change, and it's something you can just continue to do. I'm still doing it 2 years later. It's just become a part of my life, but it was absolutely amazing what I was able to do with it. So that's why I want to share this with you guys and tell you the tips I learned along the way. So tip number 1, black coffee. If you're not a coffee drinker, black tea would work well. If you're not into tea or coffee or hot beverages, then drink water. But black coffee was essential. Anyone who reaches out to me to ask me about intermittent fasting or any advice or tips or anything like that, the first thing I tell them is learn to love black coffee, because it helps you get through those mornings where you're just getting started and you're not used to skipping breakfast. If you are doing 12 to 8, it feels like 12 o'clock is never going to come. I've been there, I know all about it, and black coffee is definitely a godsend in that, because you can drink it while you're fasting. If you want to argue me on that, that's fine. There's a ton of information that says it's totally acceptable to drink while you're fasting. Trust me, I've done my research. Black coffee helps you get through those mornings. It helps suppress the hunger. That's huge. And beyond that, it's just a great tool to keep you going while you're in that fasted state. So that's my number 1 tip. Number 2, it's not really a tip, but it's a disclaimer. You need self-control if you're going to do this. It's like any other, I guess if you're trying to follow any other diet, it's the exact same thing. Even though this isn't a diet, it still takes a lot of commitment, a lot of self-control, and you need to be strict with yourself if you want to get those results. I feel like a lot of people struggle with that self-control, or they will do it for a couple weeks and then try and reward themselves even though they haven't earned it yet, just because they're starting to see results. If you do that, you're throwing away everything. Don't do that until you've been at it for a year. I didn't set a goal when I did this. I didn't have a goal weight. I just wanted to lose weight. I wasn't happy with how I looked. So I started doing this, and month after month, the weight just kept falling off. And eventually I was like, okay, how far can I take this? And I did it until I reached that ideal body type that I was striving for, which was, incredibly lean, abs all the time. And I feel like that's probably the goal for most people. But if you just want to lose some weight in general, then do it for 6 months. But stay committed. Don't treat yourself just because you start to see results. And I feel like that's a place where people go wrong all the time, is they're like, oh, I earned this, I'm gonna throw off the cycle a bit and I'll eat breakfast these days, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that until you've been at it for a year, until you get to that goal. Then you can start mixing it up, because your body's going to adapt like anything. You're gonna get used to it, you're gonna plateau. And then you can start throwing in, a couple days where you eat late or eat breakfast or that kind of thing. I've done that. and it's just good to throw your body off and kickstart things again. But don't do that until you've reached the goal you want to be at. Stay committed. It's going to be hard because you're going to go to bed hungry. The first 2 weeks are definitely the hardest, but beyond that, stay strong, stay motivated, and be strict with yourself on sticking to that 8-hour window. Another thing, tip number 3, don't gorge yourself just to fit it in that 8-hour window. If you do that, you're gonna basically, counteract the whole concept of the intermittent fasting. If you ate dinner at 6 and then it's 7 and you're like, oh crap, I only have an hour left to eat, I'm gonna stuff my face. That goes against basically the purpose of this whole thing. So don't eat for the sake of eating just to fit it in that window. There's a lot of times where I would eat at 6:30, and I would make sure it was a good meal. I felt good, I was satisfied, and then I wouldn't eat anything. So a lot of times I was stopping my eating window around 6:30, 7, and extending that fast for another hour. What you're doing essentially mixed with the fasting is a calorie deficit. If you ask anybody in the fitness industry about losing weight or cutting weight, it's a calorie deficit. That's the way to do it. It's not cardio, it's not a diet. Just you burn more calories than you're taking in. That's what all these people do before getting ready for a show. It's the most effective method. If you want abs, that's how you get abs, because they're there for most people. They're just hidden under that layer of fat. And it just takes putting yourself through that calorie deficit and feeling hungry. But you overcome that eventually. And you just need to stay committed and have that self-control, get past that point, and I promise you the benefits are well worth it, and you will feel better and look better. For me, it was 2 big meals a day, keeping the protein high so that I could maintain muscle mass. When you're running a calorie deficit, obviously, you're gonna sacrifice some muscle, but I was working out like crazy. I often trained fasted. People will probably argue me on that and say they don't, or you shouldn't train fasted. It's completely up to you. I had great benefits from it, and I would always break my fast with a protein and a BCAA, and then I'd go have my first meal of the day. That's not for everyone. A lot of people like to have food in their stomach to fuel a workout, and that's totally acceptable. I get it, but I preferred to train fasted, and I had great benefits from that. That worked for me. Whatever you want to do is completely up to you. But basically 2 meals a day, lots of protein, keeping that protein high, and then running that calorie deficit is the whole concept, mixed with the effects of fasting and what your body does to attack those fat stores. And those things work together to give you amazing results for weight loss. Honestly, I think it's the best method where you don't have to change your diet. I still ate all the things I wanted to and just fit it in that 8-hour window. So it's that simple. It's tough. The first 2 weeks are really rough, I promise you. But if you want to do it and you want to be committed, if you're unhappy with how you look, or you've tried everything and you want to lose weight, this is my recommendation to you. It wasn't just the intermittent fasting that got me to my goal or to where I am today. Partially it was because these other things came along with it. So with that, the black coffee basically became my staple. So I was someone who drank 2 to 3 coffees a day, and that was with 2 milk, 2 sugar, or 2 milk, 1 sugar. And by switching to black coffee because of the fasting, I no longer drank a coffee with dairy or sugar. So that's so many calories cut out just because of that. And I just learned to love black coffee, and that was my go-to. So even when I wasn't fasting, I was still only drinking black coffee. Therefore, all those calories from the dairy and the sugar are gone. And that was a huge step forward, just removing that from my life. Secondly, snacking basically goes out the window with the intermittent fasting because you stick to that window. There's no longer any snacks before bed because I was cut off at 8 o'clock, nothing going in my system. Out of habit, I was buying bags of chips and they would sit in my cupboard for months. I just wouldn't touch them because I didn't snack anymore. So that's another benefit. It's just more of those empty, useless calories that people take in, because most time when you're snacking, it's out of boredom. It's not because you're actually hungry. My biggest suggestion is if you have a meal at 6 or 6:30 and it's getting close to the end of your window, let's say you're cutting off at 8 o'clock, have a protein shake and call it a day. That's the best thing I can recommend. So you're keeping your protein high, it still fills you up and will keep you going so you can get to sleep at night and you're not starving laying in bed awake. Lastly, alcohol. I don't expect everyone to do this. I understand it's a huge part of being social and having a social life is alcohol. Because of the intermittent fasting, I actually cut down my drinking by like 70% once I started, because most times you're drinking, or if you're gonna have a drink, it's probably after 8 o'clock, unless you're someone who starts at 5 and whatever, you do you. For me, it was a lot of, I would often have a drink before bed, a beer or two to take the edge off or help me sleep. And that just went out the window because I was so strict. After 8 o'clock, nothing. So I stopped doing that. And then eventually I realized I don't need alcohol in my life. When I made that decision and just completely cut it out, the benefits were like crazy. There was probably an extra 15 to 20 pounds that came off just from alcohol alone. Once I cut that out, I was able to target that core and midsection fat that was hanging on, even though I was losing weight so much from the fasting. That last little bit that was hanging around my lower belly, which is definitely a problem area for a lot of people. Soon as I cut that out, that went away and I got those bottom abs. Obviously, I don't expect you guys to cut out alcohol. I understand that's incredibly hard. I'm just saying, when I did, I was blown away because it was that extra bit of weight. And after I did that, my body changed completely and I had the ideal body that I was looking for. So that's my spiel on it, guys. If you guys have any questions about it, by all means, drop a comment below, send me a message on my Instagram. I'll happily reply. Send me an email, whatever you like. This is something I like to talk about. I like to help people with as much as I can because I've been doing it for 2 years. I had amazing results from it. If you actually go on my Instagram page, there's a side-by-side of the drastic difference that I made with my body in less than a year just by doing this. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.